Back in the 1700s, Tsarist Russia thought she had taken care of her Jewish problem very well. And her solution was only a simple demand.
Convert or go.
And as Jews all over the world have done for thousands of years, when faced with that choice, they went. By the end of the 18th century, nearly all the Jews of Russia had been deported. Most had fled to Poland, where they were allowed to live in peace. But it didn't last long. Russia marched in, took over Poland, and irony of ironies, got back all of the Jews she had deported, plus hundreds of thousands more. 1 million Jews, all living in her new territories, all unwelcome.
Jews are forbidden to leave these border territories. They are barred from trade or travel to the rest of Russia. They may join no Russian guilds for craftsmen. They may own no land. St. Petersburg is closed to them. Moscow is closed to them. The universities are closed to them. Citizenship is closed to them. Let them stay and starve where they are now, in the Jewish Pale.
The Jewish Pale. Within these boundaries, almost all of Russia's Jews will be locked for the next 100 years, with the rules getting tougher or easier, according to the times. Eventually, 5 million Jews, as many as now live in America. Their world is the shtetl, the small town or village with the mud streets and the synagogue.
Here in the shtetl, the rest of the world is the intruder. When they come with blood and burning. When they leave, we continue as before, with time out to bury our dead.
Surrounded by hostility, they insulated themselves, creating their own world. A world in which God makes the only rules that count. They have agreed to live by the difficult rules and regulations of God's Torah, all 613 laws that give form and order to their daily lives. More than any czar, this code is their government, a code that for centuries has guided the Jews scattered throughout the world, living always in someone else's backyard, yet bound together as a community. And so their daily life is centered around the synagogue and the study house.
Here, you've got to have more than one job if you want to keep your family alive. But I tell you, the best cobbler of all the tailors is Yankel, the baker.
Barred from most professions and crafts, how does a Jew make a living? You use your wits and your brawn. You buy and you sell anything. And on market day, the bargaining is fierce.
You should lose all your teeth except one, and that one should ache.
The marketplace is the meeting ground for Jew and peasant. The watchword for thievery is
210!
2 Jewish eyes versus 10 Russian fingers. And of course, there is the man who tries to make a living out of the air. The Luftmensch. Without a craft, without a skill, he busily trades what he does not own to customers who do not pay. During the week, many Jews must travel from town to town, chasing parnassa, a living, taking along one's own kosher milk pot and utensils. Women often travel alone, appraising an orchard, making a deal, always safe on the road. In many ways, they help bring bread to the table. For some, it would be unseemly if their scholar husbands got too involved with the business end of life. The home is her province. In the synagogue, she could announce the coming of the Messiah and no one would pay attention to her. But at home, she controls the money and the mood. She makes the home a sanctuary for her beleaguered family.
For during the work week, one lives in the diaspora, alien and apart. But comes the Sabbath, every weary Jew tries to come home to his family.
On the Sabbath, the whole day can be spent with the holy books. Tradition reaches out of the ancient past and touches the shtetl Jew personally. When he takes a sacred book into his hands, he knows who he is. He may be barred from the opportunities, the universities, even the citizenship of Mother Russia. But his hunger is in the belly, not in the soul. How many others can say the same? The rabbi tells his flock,
"Do not worry. Build a fence around the Torah. Above all, don't get mixed up with anything from the outside. No good can come from it. Wait for the Messiah."
Whatever the Jew builds, he builds on sand anyway. It is destroyed by exile, expulsion, pogroms. Better to concentrate on our holy duties. Those endure.
and so, in a world where literacy is a privilege of the rich, every Jewish boy, however poor, learns to read. He learns to read the Hebrew holy books in Cheder. And usually that's all he learns to read.
Why read anything else? Books on science and literature are a waste of time. Everything he needs to know he can find right here in the holy books.
But for the young, this is no longer enough. A new wind is blowing. A wind that has taken 100 years to reach Russia from Western Europe. The fresh breeze of the Haskalah, the Enlightenment. It tells of an industrial revolution. It whispers of Jews who have been accepted by Gentile society. It suggests that there is more to life than Talmud. There is talk that the world is bigger than the shtetl, that there is much to be done, much to be learned. But here in the shtetl, isolated by edict and sometimes by preference, the Enlightenment fills them with fear.
I hear in Berlin all this enlightenment resulted in an epidemic of conversions.
Like moths consumed by a flame. Remember the poet Heinrich Heine?
By 1877, the records of one police department alone list these convicted radical propagandists.
279 nobles, 197 sons of priests, 117 sons of high officers, and 68 young Jews.
Naturally.
Even in the shtetl, the seeds of change are planted.
Enough peddlers already. Things don't have to be like this. It isn't God's will. Torah is fine, but teach me a trade too.
Yussel the baker is getting a Jewish newspaper from St. Petersburg, written in Russian.
In Russian? For Jews? Well, Yussel was always an odd one. So, what does it say, Yussel?
October 18th, 1879. Here in the newspaper Rosviet it says, "Enough of this twaddle. Enough of hot air. It is time to go to work. Create vocational and agricultural schools. This is the way to raise the standard of living of the Jewish masses in Russia. Life itself has set these aims for us."
In St. Petersburg, the representatives of great Jewish wealth agree. They are the few Jews so important to the financial well-being of the Russian court that it is whispered by the shtetl folk that they can even talk to the Tsar. Samuel Polyakov, Russia's railroad king, petitions His Most Illustrious Majesty, Tsar Alexander II, for approval to form a Jewish committee to raise funds for this purpose. The Tsar agrees. Polyakov and Baron de Gunsberg each contribute 25,000 rubles to the new fund. Before this, social action had always been limited to a few powerful Jews. Now an elite committee is formed, and they break with tradition.
We will go to the people. For the first time, the door will be open to Jewish action on a mass scale.
To every important an almost important Jew, their letter comes, announcing the creation of a fund to establish trade schools and agricultural colonies.
We, the undersigned, consider that the participation of as large a number of people as possible is extremely dear to us, and the gift of a ruble by a poor man is not less dear to us than donations of tens of thousands.
The letter speaks to the very heart of the Jewish community, for its purpose is to inspire new respect for the manual skills, and by training, to help the shtetl Jew take his place in the modern world. The response is profound. Money begins to pour in. But the Jews of the Pale hear the note of hope in that appeal and see the dream. To make a new life for their children, to remake their faltering world.
Unheard of. We've raised 206,000 rubles in 6 months.
12,000 people in towns and villages all over Russia, most of very modest means, have contributed. They are the founders of an organization which, in the years to come, will be inseparable from the destiny of the Jewish people. The Society for the Promotion of Handicrafts, Industry, and Agriculture among the Jews.
Общество распространения труда. ORT.
How could these people raise so much money? They don't even have rubles for food.
But it is written that all Jews are responsible, each for the other. If we do not care for ourselves, who will?
This is the concept of giving woven into the fabric of the shtetl. At this time in the Russian Pale, for the benefit of poor brides alone, there are 57 Jewish organizations.
Plus who knows how many for the aged, the sick, the poor, the orphans, and of course, for the scholars.
ORT's appeal touches the Jewish values directly, for it brings to life the honored principle of Maimonides.
Anticipate charity by preventing poverty. Assist the reduced fellow man by teaching him a trade, so that he may earn an honest livelihood and not be forced to the dreadful alternative of holding out his hand for charity. This is the highest step and the summit of charity's golden ladder.
In the years to come, ORT dedicates itself to this. So the people give, and they plan, and they hope.
Tsar Alexander II isn't too bad after all.
He isn't too good either.
Well, it's all by comparison. It's possible to even have a foolish dream or two.
Within a year, the foolish dream becomes a nightmare. March 1st, 1881.
The Tsar has been assassinated.
And his son is the Tsar. The new Tsar, Alexander III, has his own solution to the Jewish problem.
1/3 will emigrate, 1/3 will convert, 1/3 will starve.
The words of the new Tsar's spokesman ring out across the land.
On your feet, gentlemen. The government is coming.
And come they do with terror and blood. Pogrom. Children hide in terror as the troops thunder through the villages, looting, destroying, killing. They sweep across the Pale, shattering the countryside with their anti-Semitism. They come to the ORT school in Zhytomyr, the first Jewish vocational school in Russia. They post the order.
The existence of a Jewish vocational school in an area where no similar schools exist for Christians will not be tolerated. Closed.
Jews are expelled from their villages. One Jewish newspaper writes,
The virulence of Russian anti-Semitism has faded the flowers and extinguished the fire of our hopes. Only a year and a half ago,
We often mention in these columns the noble effort on behalf of the Jewish masses by ORT. And now, in so short a time, everything is changed. All farms and agricultural settlements, all vocational schools have gone up in smoke.
There is no longer hope for Gesund and Parnasse, health and a living for the Jew in Russia. Now there is one word on everyone's lips: emigrate. It is the beginning of the end of the shtetl.
Over the next 25 years, helped by Hayas, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, 2 million will go. Pioneers from the shtetl. Most of them will go to America, the Gonif, where they will struggle and go hungry, and their children will be free.
But how we miss the old country. The sight of the woods, and the stream, the sound of my mother singing.
Now, back in the shtetl, when the bookseller comes around, his bestseller is no longer the dream book or the Yiddish novel. Now the women want the Briefsteller, the letter composer, a book of model letters good for any occasion. So hundreds of lonely shtetl women are copying the identical letter. And hundreds of homesick husbands in America are reading the same words.
The children and I are waiting for you to send for us. Soon, God willing, we will all be in America.